Only for new hires? Fine, by user P772000. So during high school I worked at a part-time job at a grocery store that sounds similar to Jingles. We had a lot of cashiers quit and desperately needed more cashiers. At the time I was making $10.50 an hour. Our general manager made a promotion where any cashiers hired got paid $11.25 an hour. So I go talk to my manager like, hey, can I get that raise? He said no, it is only for new hires. Well, after about 2 weeks I got fed up being the only one who knew how to run the registers because I was really the only one with experience. I was training employees who were making more than me. I asked again to be on the same level of the people I am training. I realized that the promotion ended in about a month, so I talked with my parents about my plan. I waited until I knew that he was going to struggle because of people already asking off. I went into my shift, and I told my manager I quit. Here is my time card, here is the keys, I helped close once or twice, and here is my vest. He said, well, wait, let's talk about this. I said no and walked straight out. I enjoyed the weekend off and hung out with friends more often than I normally did, didn't work at all that week, and on Friday, a week and a day later, I went on the website and applied again. I was called in for an interview, with my former manager. He seemed relieved and arrogant that I was coming back, but at the end of the interview I asked, since I am a new hire I get the new hire bonus pay, right? And also, Janice, the only other lady who I liked, gave me her referral code, so I get that as well, right? I could tell he was very unhappy, but I did end up getting both. I missed 3 days of work but ended up making more from the referral bonus, $250, and got myself a .75 raise. Edit. Someone gifted me a gold medal anonymously and I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to all of those who commented and gave me positive feedback. I did not expect for this to blow up and receive awards. Love you guys. Oh, you think the trade shows are actually vacations wrought with fraud and you want to impose strict controls over a business you don't understand? Good luck, by user Punklinux. Many years ago, I worked for a company that hired an incredibly obtuse financial department who took over when they first organized. It used to be a loose collection of managers, but the year after I started, they went for a more organized and separate structure. To be fair, this is more about my boss than myself. We had a travel team, a group of volunteers from sales and IT who would go, en masse, with equipment and techs to do setups, displays, and network at trade shows. We had a booth, some sales guys would be there, and networking would commence. There was always a set of volunteers from the IT department, because some of the shows would be in big cities, and you'd get to attend vendor events, parties, and hang out with the sales guys who were mostly gay alcoholics for some reason and super fun. There was a kind of seniority to who got to volunteer, but nobody really complained, and everyone got rotated who got to go. You got to go to DEFCON last year, it's my turn now. Okay, fair. The travel team lead was also a volunteer position, but commonly someone high up, like a manager. Their job was to orchestrate equipment, rentals, expenses, travel plans, convention center fees, and shipping. They also ended up getting a lot of free stuff, too, from sales and our partners, which they'd pass along to the travel team. It was all kind of a perk, to be fair, for everyone involved. But when the new director of finance started, she put in some new and strict policies. Some of their policies started with. This was all in response to the director of finance's claim it would reduce fraud, an issue that, as far as anyone could tell, had never happened. The director had this Dolores Umbridge approach that somebody, somewhere, might get away with something. She was a patronizing git with a smug grin and this annoying head waggle when she downsplained something to you. So we'll call her Dolores. Before her, the travel team would just submit receipts and get reimbursed. Dolores put an end to that, specifically saying that the previous lead of the travel team was just going to spend all the money on steaks and wine. He, understandably, told her to go fuck herself, and quit the company when the dust settled. In his wake, Dolores used his free stuff from vendors as a shining example of stolen opulence and swag hoarding that she put an end to. Oh, behold the mighty on his throne of airborne express stress squishies and free Uline catalogs. That left my manager to take over his duties, and he'd never done travel team, so he wasn't really sure how it all worked and didn't push back on Dolores at first until he was forced to travel with the team. He was surprised he didn't have an expense account or corporate card, and when he asked for one, he got the gift card. When he tried to use it, it was rejected pretty much everywhere he needed it except various restaurants. He paid for everything else on his personal American Express card, including stuff for the rest of the team, and was rejected for reimbursements because he didn't ask for it beforehand. He was on the hook for $40K and in various things from 2-week-long trips. Of course, he complained to the top management. Dolores threatened to quit if she wasn't allowed to do her job, and the top managers never had to deal with her before, and were kind of wishy-washy about being the bad guy here. Like, well, she says she lets you use gift cards, so. And when my manager said they were rejected, Dolores said, he's not trying hard enough, he's afraid of confrontation. He needs to be a big boy and fight back. But in the end, the top management reimbursed him under pressure from the legal department. After that happened, Dolores settled on having certain things prepaid for, like hotel, travel, truck rentals, and shipping. But they waited so long to do them, that often they tried to get hotel rooms or truck rental the day of a popular event, sold out, or got the wrong hotel. Washington, D.C. is not the same as Washington State, or waited so long for shipping, it cost $250 to send something overnight that would have cost $40 to send it a few weeks prior. They also didn't understand how much anything actually cost, and how we saved money by doing things ourselves. And in some cases, finance did everything wrong, so the team would arrive at the right hotel, and found out that finance didn't submit an authorized approval for a card, for, say, incidentals, a requirement for most hotels for trade shows, and nobody could reach them, so again, people got dinged on their personal cards. Again, Dolores said, they just can't accept what the hotel desk, convention center union, or dumb minimum wage bunny at the toll booth tells them, they have to fight back. We can't spoon-feed and coddle these guys because they are too scared of conflict. Ever fight with a Jersey Turnpike toll booth collector? Yet, neither had she. After 2 of these disasters, my manager said, just stop. Stop volunteering for these events. I will not approve time off for it. He declined being travel lead for future trips because he just couldn't afford it. This was an unpopular move, at best, but he told us just wait. Let her do things her way. He was a master at malicious compliance, and with no resistance, Dolores went into 5th gear with the smug grin, now we're going to act like a real company. That leads to the next issue, some of these travels were in major cities, like Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., etc. Dolores, again, said that people were just going to these events to get the company to pay for a drinking vacation. Management was like, yeah? We wouldn't get volunteers, otherwise. Well, Dolores didn't like that idea. So she decided that she would hold a staff lottery and you could enter your name, and she'd have a drawing on who got to go to be fair to everyone. This fairness seems awfully slanted on her own staff, by the way, which we'll get to shortly. The point of these trade shows was not to take a vacation, something Dolores made absolutely sure to point out, but she didn't grasp the entire reason we went, to increase our business. It had to be IT folk for setup, and sales folk for the schmoozing, but that concept never got past her ears into her cognitive understanding. Well, since those IT and tech folk who already couldn't go didn't want to pay for it, we didn't volunteer. So the travel team ended up being other company staff who had no idea how to work, act, or deal with trade shows, which was a horrific expense disaster. Imagine the administrative assistant for marketing on the 5th floor winning a ticket, only to find out she had to pay for everything. Plus, Dolores always sent one of her own to keep an eye on everyone, but none of them knew how trade shows worked, either. They only knew how to kowtow to Dolores and her control issues. What is a union fee? What is corkage? No, we did not approve some union to give us power, you plug your booth stuff into an outlet or something. They won't let you? Who is they? Well, then stop using TV screens in the booth. You don't need them, we do not sell TVs, anyway. Did you know that if you have a conflict with the event center union and decline their help, they charge you anyway at max rate? Yet, Dolores and her team didn't know that, either. And let me tell you, paying those guys a few $1,000 ahead of time is a lot cheaper than just letting them charge you fines afterwards. Oh, she tried to fight back, because she was not afraid of a little conflict, but lost heavily. Ironically, despite Dolores stating otherwise, at great length, the non-IT or salespeople who went actually thought it was company-paid vacation-ish, just like Dolores warned about, making it a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. The fact they had to work was surprising at first. Then after that word got out, nobody would enter into the lottery, so now they had no volunteers. So Dolores assigned them to interns. Interns. I could write an entire novel from that disaster alone. Imagine sending a bunch of college kids to Vegas, telling them they had to pay for things, and putting them in a job conflict situation where they were guaranteed to lose. I am sure many laws were broken. Dolores then had to send along chaperones to manage it, who were more of her finance department flunkies, and our company ended up with massive fines for various issues, including paying bail for the interns. Because the interns got into so much trouble, Dolores started hiring room monitors for the hotels, and fully legal adults had to go to the show, work the entire day at the show on their feet, then check back into their room. She also put 4 to 6 people to a room, too. Like they were a high school band or something. She even had breathalyzers bought for it to make sure nobody was drinking. Adults. She treated adults like this. This was brought up by the sales teams as a PR nightmare, and my boss said, "Just wait. Okay? Let her hang herself." The first year of this, the travel team's expenses increased by over 4,000%. You heard me, 4,000%. Trips that used to cost $3,600 were now costing $144,000 or more, often because of late-minute fees and penalties. The travel team expenses went from $110,000 annual on average to over 2-point-something million. Because shit was so badly mishandled, we lost a lot of our booth slots and booth renewals, so we lost half our trade shows, and looked like idiots to our clients. But the main reason we went to those trade shows in the first place was for networking, so there was literally no reason to go anymore. This was pointed out to Dolores multiple times by the sales team, so she doubled down and cancelled the travel team after just 1 year. Finally, top management got involved, who actually fought with Dolores for a year until she retired for personal reasons / to dedicate herself to her family. Then it took nearly 2 years to rebuild the travel team from scratch. People got corporate cards, travel team lead became an actual job, and when we hired one, she handled all the financial stuff for us, so it was much better, and saved the company a ton of money in her first year. And there was much rejoicing. Edit, so, some edits, based on some common questions. Q, you're really talking about some name, aren't you? A, there are a lot of Dolores Umbridges out there, apparently. Only 3 people, former co-workers, got it right. Q, why was she not fired when the spending went from $110,000 to $2.1 million? A, several reasons, the biggest being she was director of finance. So I am sure when she gave her fiscal report, she downplayed the mistakes. We also had some really good years in the early 2000s, so if we made $2 million in profit the previous year, and $3 million the next, that loss would have gone unnoticed until someone realized we should have made $6 million instead. That's my theory, at any rate, based on the aftermath. Dolores was friends of 2 of the top managers, and supposedly had a come-to-Jesus meeting with them about the state of our company's financial standings, so that's why they hired her in the first place. By the second year, several directors had quit, including friends of top management who took them for drinks later and got the entire scoop. Dolores has got to go. The trade show thing was only one of the cases she fucked things up. She also completely hosed one of our major supply chains by lowballing them, and making a few enemies that nearly destroyed the company, and gave away some of our more lucrative contracts with vendors to competitors because that broke their anti-competitive clauses. There were more issues, but that comes closer to identifying some people, which is a huge no-no here. Q, what happened to the Christmas party? A, the Christmas party wasn't nearly as interesting, she just didn't have one. This was near the tail end of the whole "now we're going to run this like a real company" fiasco, but once the budget for events was $2.1 million from $110,000, the Christmas party was probably far down her list of worries. I don't even think she knew she was supposed to have one. Some people think she was funneling that money to cover up the massive expense increase for the trade show fiascos, but I can't imagine that those budgets were from the same pool. I think around November, people started asking, don't they have a holiday party every year, but nobody knew who was doing it. Usually the 3 people who were a huge part of it in previous years we no longer with the company, they had quit, mostly because of Dolores. But even they didn't run it, per se, they hired and catered it out at some fancy hotel locally. Our fiscal year was Gendis, so December was huge for tying things up, and this was her first year running fiscal year-end stuff. She came on board late in the previous year, and so the finance would have been normally very occupied, anyway. Q, how was she let go? A, she just gained too many enemies in the company. It took a while, but after she had been with us for a year and a half, she accumulated too much negative drag on her inertia to get things done because there started to be a very strong passive resistance. This caused her to spiral out of control, and try to start a coup which gained no traction and singled her out as being mildly unhinged to say the least. By the time her second anniversary came and went, she started taking sabbaticals until one of them became permanent. Her assistant took over, but then was let go, and they brought in some consultant group who started a new financial team. They were the ones that suggested someone have the table team lead as an actual, separate, paid job. The woman who got hired and ran that was amazing. Q. Is it true she tried to sell keychains and pens? A. No one asked this, but a former co-worker reminded me that she was appalled we were just giving away some of our normal booth freebies like stickers, pens, shirts, and keychain flashlights. She demanded we charge at least a nominal fee for them, but IIRC, nobody followed that mandate. I only personally know she sent out a memo admonishing employees that a lot of the keychains went missing and she was seeing them on people's desks. Those cost the company money, and wanted to charge employees $3 for them. But apparently she wanted to charge people at the booth as well. You want your magazine? Fine, I'll deliver it right to your hand, by user Kasovs. Recently, I, 15F, started getting complaints on the paper round I work. I work a paper round for extra income since I'm not 16 yet and legally in the UK cannot get a proper job. I've had it for 2 years. Lately though, about 2 months or so, I got a new house on the round and they've been nothing but a pain. Not only is it out the way of my round, so pretty much a hassle to get to, they have to be very rude too. Lately, my boss has been forgetting to put magazines into the papers and they've constantly been complaining, resulting in me getting reprimanded. That in itself isn't bad, but they've yelled at me for not closing their gate properly, getting too close to their Ring doorbell and waving at their child from the window in the morning, all small things that led to this malicious compliance. 5 weeks ago, however, they were still complaining about getting no magazine despite me making sure before I delivered that it went through, and I was getting tired. The next time I delivered their papers, I knocked. Bear in mind, I have to get these papers delivered quickly, so it was 6 a.m. at this point. However, I knocked and knocked until the wife of the grumpy guy opened the door, half asleep and looking agitated. She coughs slightly and in a typical Karen voice she goes, "What the hell do you want?" I look at her with fake stun as if I don't know what I'm doing and tell her I'm just delivering the magazine like you asked. At this moment, she knew she couldn't complain because 1. Her Ring doorbell caught it all, and 2. I had physically handed it to her this time, undeniable proof. For the next upcoming weeks, I knocked until they answered the door, making sure to knock extra loud. This morning, however, the husband answered the door and he looked defeated. He flat out looked at me and apologized, in his words, "At least we get it, we're sorry about the complaints, please stop knocking so early and just get the paper through the door." After that long round, nothing felt more satisfactory than the sweet taste of malicious compliance. I may be underpaid, but it was all worth it to see that face. Edit, just edited to fix up the paragraphs. I wrote in quite a rush, but thanks for all nice comments. Edit 2, please don't message me being creepy, I won't reply. Sign in even though I've worked here for 12 years? You got it, by Userod Senzave Amor. Edit, I can't spell for all the T in England. Just to clear up some points, as I can't respond to all your lovely messages. I'm a dick/wanker/Karen/small pp for doing this. Well, yeah, isn't that what malicious compliance is? Obeying the letter of the law if not the spirit? And making it a slight inconvenience to the person enforcing the MC? You should have followed the security process. MC Guard made up own rules in contradiction to the set policy for security. Which was why Operation MC went into place. If he had stuck to the set policy, he wouldn't have been the target of MC. Leave the old man alone, he's mid-40 at most, not overweight, just very rude, hence the nickname, and prone to making up own rules. Why are you not working? How have you got so much time to MC? I'm in the UK where a lot of modern companies value the health and well-being of their staff and use this as the backbone of a successful business. Frankly, I'd be very upset if I heard any of my staff were upset, overworked or stressed. I always make a point to have them take regular breaks. So my malicious compliance started about a month ago at my workplace where I've been for the past 12 years. On the fateful day I had forgotten my key fob to buzz through the security gate, so I asked the guard, who I've known and chat to for several years, to let me though. As he was getting up, the moody older guard, some of my staff named him Nasty Nick for good reason, next to him stopped him and rudely told me to sign in. I explained that I've been working here for over a decade and I'm known to this guard so he can vouch for me. He said doesn't matter, it's a health and safety thing in case there was a fire. Not true, this is a shared building and each company is responsible for accounting for their staff. I know because I helped set up this plan with the building's owner. I explained this to him but he wasn't having it and directed me to the sign-in book, which funnily enough, had a printed sheet which stated it was for guests only and had a line saying permanent staff should get a sticker to ID themselves. When I asked about the sticker, he said this was the new process and I had to sign in and out each time I entered/exited the building without my fob. I asked if he was sure, he said 100%. Cue malicious compliance. The UK Health and Safety Body says that ideally, you should take a 5 to 10 minute break each hour away from your computer screen. Not wanting to get RSI or anything, I took it upon myself to take even more regular breaks, especially when Nasty Nick was on shift. So for my break I would go on short walks outside and would you know it? I am getting very forgetful in my old age and keep forgetting to bring in my fob. So each time I come to sign in, Nasty Nick would need to get up, open his door, undo his keys to buzz me in. Quite often I would forget something in my car just as he's about to let me in and he'll need to make his round trip back to the little office. My record was 13 little breaks over the day. After about 2 weeks of this, I managed to have a catch up with the younger guard and he explained that he checked and there was definitely not a need for me to sign in each time, and even better, Nasty Nick was constantly moaning about me to the other security guys about the idiot who keeps forgetting his fob. TLDR, guard makes up own security rules is mildly inconvenienced multiple times a day having to walk back and forth to buzz me into work. Don't waste money on a hire car, by user Thamasof Hoopton. I'm a contractor but work for a government department. Work sometimes requires us to travel, which requires us to draft an itinerary with a travel budget before a senior manager signs off on it. I place a budget in front of the manager for a 7-day trip. Manager, what's this? You are getting a hire car? We are not paying for a hire car. Me, but... Manager, I'm going to stop you right there. We've been told to cut spending. This means no hire car for you. Context, I'm working on a project worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Me, okay then, no worries boss. The hire car would have been on a corporate rate, $70 p/day x 7 days. The department's own rules, I was not allowed to carry confidential documentation on public transport, so I legally had to use taxis. Which is what I did, liberally. Between the airport, to my hotel and the half-dozen or so sites I had to visit. It ended up costing well over 10x what it would have cost to just give me a hire car. Edit, because this got a lot of comments. Hire car equals rental, UK/Australia terminology. My head maths is wrong and I was being hyperbolic when I said 10x. The actual costs across 7 days was just over $2,000 in taxi/Uber.